Welcome to season 2 of the Serenity Resource Connector. Welcome back to those who were with us in season 1. And if you're joining us for the first time, a warm welcome to the Serenity Resource Connector family. It's a public education program where we have weekly conversations with representatives from the various government entities and other service providers. And we talk about education, occupation, income, wealth, and community. That's a big part of it, community. And we have a first on this first episode of season 2, our very first independent service provider in the person of T.A. Hyman. Let's get her here on with me in the virtual space. So, T.A. Hyman is CEO and founder of Skolastik Oasis Caribbean, and that's a company that provides scholarship matching and support to Caribbean nationals for tertiary education. To date, Scholastic Oasis has helped clients to secure over 34 million Jamaican dollars in scholarships, fellowships, and grants. T.A. Hyman, welcome to the Serenity Resource Connector virtual space. Great to have
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having me, Winsome. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to this great discussion and this session. I'm excited.
Awesome. All right. So let's get the excitement going by sharing what this T.A. Hyman is about. What's a T.A.?
Well, so the TA stands for Tracy Ann, which is
Okay.
actually my first name. They're separated by a hyphen, but you when because I have started a author journey, and you observe other authors like C.S. Lewis and different persons. You're like, wow. And I looked at my middle name and I said, okay, well, it's not adding up there, with the T and the N, so but TA is adding up. So of course it had to be T.A. Hyman, Tracy and Hyman.
It works. And I mean, C.S. Lewis is great example to follow, right?
Hmm.
And we are still in the education part, laying the foundation, scholastic with a K. Sounds like when you go to register the child and they end up with something other than what you intended. What's the story behind the scholastic
Well, that's a
with the
great
K?
question, and that springboards us even a little ahead in terms of how to be scholarship ready. And one of the things that happened when I came back from Japan, having completed a master's on a scholarship, I came back to Jamaica, and I could not find a job. And so I volunteered, and I had to volunteer. And I believe that that was a significant portion of my working time, and also helped me in the formation of the company, and also to now go on to assist persons. So volunteerism is a very key component in being scholarship ready. So while I was volunteering, I was actually at Wycliffe Caribbean, and they were at the time translating the King James Bible.
Mm.
Well, not the King James, but they were um, translating the Hebrew and Greek Bible into Patois,
Oh,
right? And they were following a specific writing system called the Frederick Cassidy writing system for the Jamaican Patois. Because it's not standardized. Some people call it chaka chaka and break up, break up. So they wanted to standardize it and say, okay, this is how we do with vowels, this is how we pluralize, and so. And so, in honor of that time, it was a whole interesting period in terms of we have our vowels, how it's pronounced, everything. In honor of that time of volunteering and learning, that period actually had me going across the island and speaking. I think that also helped in the development of my speaking skills. I decided, you know what, in honor of that time of volunteerism, I was going to spell the name of the company the way how I was taught in the Jamaican language orthography. And that's how the K comes. Because in the Jamaican language, you instead of the C for some of the words, you actually use the K. So it's not a mistake at all. It's intentionally
very
done
intentional.
in the spelling of the name. Yes.
Of fantastic story. It's a great foundation to, I mean, their involvement in the translation uh, to the Patois Bible,
Yes.
or, yes, or local jargon.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Pronouns. Yes.
Yes. Another thing is that you provide support for scholarships, fellowship, and grants. What's the difference between the three?
Very important. So with your scholarships, and the focus of Scholastic right now is on higher education or tertiary or university level. So remember, you can get a scholarship at different levels, at the primary level and your secondary, but currently our focus is on at the university level. So when I'm referring to scholarships, I'm looking university wise. So
Right.
if you get a scholarship, normally it's for about 3 to 4 years if you're doing a bachelor's degree. Maybe if you're doing a master's degree, to be a 2 year scholarship, but for the most part, it's between 3 to 4 years, depending on your program. And
Okay.
usually it's tied to something that you do, something academic, your grades. As we progress into university level, it's not only also about your grade, it's also your involvement in terms of community service, curricular activities. Now, having been in this business, having traced the whole scholarship, what do you call it, evolution. At one time, it was always about being a straight A student, getting all A's. You call them your nerd. These persons can participate in sports activities, but no, it's no longer like that. I would say over the past 10 to 15 years, because now the scholarship funders are looking for persons who are well-rounded, not just book smart. Persons who can give back and persons who can contribute. So your scholarships would be along the line of you attending university, being well-rounded, and getting that coverage for your bachelor's degree, your master's degree. The fellowship now, I would say, is pushed up to more your postgraduate level or your
Okay.
master's level, and is not is it's actually attached to the work that you will be doing at your master's level, in support, but may not be the exact thing, but it's supporting. So you may be asked to do some type of project, to represent your university in this particular area, and you're given a fellowship. So normally the fellowships would last maybe about 1 max 2 years. For the
Okay.
most part, from our research, we're seeing the fellowships last for a year. And just for persons out there to know, can you have a scholarship and a fellowship at the same time? Yes, you can. In certain instances, you can have both. In other instances, can you have two scholarships at the same time? It depends. If it's partial scholarships, yes. It's a full scholarship. Some companies don't want you to have any other, because you'll be cutting out the opportunities for others, right? So it's
Right.
very important when you're doing your scholarship search to really find out what exactly are you getting, a scholarship or fellowship, and then the last thing is the grant. And the grant, it varies, because the term grant means different things. Because I remember when I was at university, we equated a grant with maybe like a bursary, something that you would get maybe to pay off your miscellaneous fees or to cover your transportation. But as things are progressing, grants now can go as small as maybe doing a reading project and getting a
Mhm.
specific sum of money to teach persons to read, to actually building a housing scheme, in terms of grant, the word grant. But in
Right.
our context of speaking this evening, in terms of academia, in terms of higher education, I want to look on the grant as a project that you'll be given, a research project, something related to your school, and then you're given a set time and a set amount of funds and a budget in which you must complete this task. So you may be given a task where it could be 2 months, 3 months, a year, and at the end of this task, we want this delivered. So it may not, so it's attached, it could be attached to your academic program, and it could not. But it's giving you the experience of budgeting, time management, and learning to work outside of your general academic space, is how I would differentiate the three.
Awesome. That's like a full session in one. Oh, this is really some awesome information here, Tracy. And you provide matching and support.
Yes,
Take
yes.
us along the journey. What exactly does that look like?
So at first, when we started, we realized that persons were actually unaware that scholarship funds exist. My personal journey, because I actually benefited from a Japanese government scholarship, went overseas, did my master's, and came back. I mean, I just thought everybody knew that, but I realized, having done research in the company, that persons do not know that these funds exist. So we started off first with just gathering scholarship information, what exists for persons locally and
Mhm.
what exists for persons internationally, because the company is assisting persons both local and international in terms of your tertiary education. And then we began to put the list together. We realized, okay, when persons would come for scholarships, we we're giving them big lists and lists, and people like, we don't have time to go through this. So then it hit me. I mean, get those scholarships that are persons directly related to their area of interest. Because people, time to go through and scroll. Because if you ever put in the word scholarships in Google,
Oh,
you will be sitting down all day trying to sim through all of that. So it was about, okay, getting information. What is the field of study for the person? What's their discipline? How old are they? What are they involved in? Taking that information and going through our databases and seeing, okay, what's there? And then matching them and giving them the information. Of course, that information will be given in a consultation. So persons would engage our services in a consultation, give us certain information. We say, hey, these scholarships are available. Here are the top 5 or the top 10 that apply to you, or as we say, that we are matching you to. Yeah. So that's how we kind of go about doing it. But don't get it wrong in terms of people think that we're giving scholarships. We are not giving scholarships. We're like the middleman or your coach
you're the
or the
connector.
facilitator. Yeah, the connector, right? The resource connector. We're not giving out the scholarship. We're just bringing it to the attention of persons based on their academic achievements and their abilities.
Right. And I must highlight that's the Scholastic Oasis is just that. It's an oasis because it's that area where you have people are in a state of confusion with all of this information overload, which is similar to this space. It's an oasis where we filter the information and provide it to you in bite-sized pieces where you can actually go to work using the information that you get. So the name is quite fitting.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
say
And that word key is bite size. Very important. Yeah. Very, very key.
right, which is why we tend to break this down. So we're having a series of conversation on education financing, but this evening we are zoning in on higher education financing, and we're looking at the scholarship grants and more. And I know that a number of individuals might not have been aware of Scholastic Oasis. And our thing here at Serenity Resource Connector is that you do not have to go the journey alone. There's support out there, and that's what we are doing here, connecting you with some of these resources. And let me pause to welcome viewers that are live with us. Tread this path said she's here earlier. Michael Henry, pleasant evening. Thank you for joining us. And for the others who are here, go ahead and say something in the comment section so that we can pull it into the conversation and give you a special welcome. If you're a student, you can go ahead and indicate which school you're with or which parish you're joining from. That would be lovely as well. All right. All right. So we are talking with T.A. Hyman, CEO and founder of Scholastic Oasis Caribbean. Refer to her as this scholarship coach.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
All right. Shakira is here. Welcome, Shakira. All right. So we were just talking about, so let's get into helping persons to identify if they're going to do that search for themselves. Where can they start?
Well,
Other
of
than other
course.
than Google.
Other than Google, right? Because when you put in Google, the amount of results that come up. So, of course, I'm going to be a little biased and say, I mean, you've got to follow Scholastic Oasis on our social media pages. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're actually
Mhm.
on WordPress. We have our website on WordPress. We're on LinkedIn and YouTube. So definitely keep abreast in terms of what's available, what's upcoming. We try to put that information out there. Um, you know, I encourage persons to watch the news. The Jamaica Gleaner brings information on what's available. Companies will come on. What a good thing to do is just to watch certain companies. They may not even say they're offering a scholarship, but they may be known or they're making a mark out there in the marketplace. Follow them. Go ensure that you're following some of these companies that you'd want to work for. Sometimes they do offer these scholarships, and they'll let you know. Okay, when you go on their page, they have this scholarship opportunity that's available. So definitely, keeping in touch with your social media pages is key. You can also join our mailing list. I think at some point, when somebody can put up the mailing list to be kept
Sure.
abreast with the upcoming activities, upcoming funding opportunities that Scholastic knows about. And guys, yes, you still also have to still go on Google and still do a Google search. So that's a part of it. So that is a little bit of both. You all, some of you may also have your guidance counselors at schools, the students may have a guidance council because sometimes funders will bring the information directly to the high school about accessing your tertiary education. And so it's good to have a good relationship with your guidance counselors, your librarians, because information is passed through them as well. So you have to connect yourself to be in the know in terms of what's happening out there and be up to date. Your Jamaica Gleaner, you're not giving only Gleaner some highlights, observer. You're, in terms of
Oh,
what's going
yes.
on out there. Be careful enough to be balanced.
Indeed. And they I mean everything is pretty much online now. It's just about, and it's about also curating what entities you follow,
Mhm.
because that's a part of social media management. Why are you following some of these people? Because you have so many things going on, and if it is that you're on a scholarship journey, then you want to align yourself with entities who will provide you with that kind of information.
Yes, and Winsome, there's one more important one. The Jamaica Gleaner does a yearly section of their paper called Scholarships on the
Scholarship.
Go. I don't know if you know
Oh,
about that. Yes, it's
yes,
normally in
I've seen
May.
it.
Yeah, where they compile all the scholarships. Well, that's available for Jamaicans, but
Right.
just to let everybody know that I'm also open to Caribbean nationals, not just Jamaican persons. I'm open to Caribbean nationals and Africans. But for the local market, now for the Jamaicans, there is a scholarships on the go that's produced every year, the Gleaner. So you need to get your copy. It's normally in May that they normally print that, giving you a listing of all scholarships available to Jamaicans, both locally and overseas.
All right, great information. So add it to your calendar. That's why we have the smartphones in May to start checking the Gleaner to access the information on those scholarships so you can start planning your scholarship journey. For those who might not yet be at the final year in high school, you want to start planning from now,
Yes.
right? So you add that as well. Welcome to those who joined after the official welcome. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome, Sir Thomas Thompson. Sorry for the invitation. Thanks for doing this. You're welcome. All right. Great information. And another area too, Tracy, for the schools,
Hmm.
they usually, those that I've seen on their website, they usually have a section that outlines scholarships. And even
Yeah.
some of the company websites, they have that section there. Just
Yes.
as how they have the career opportunity section, there's also a scholarship section. And if they're already enrolled in school, then you're if it is an advisor that you have or someone in that particular area that you can have conversation. It starts with having a conversation. As Tracy said earlier, to have a conversation with guidance counselor. If they don't know, they'll be able to point you in a direction. Or better yet, get on the Scholastic Oasis Caribbean
Mhm.
mailing list. The link is in the
Chat.
chat,
Hmm.
and it will be available in the feed on YouTube after this. So you can go there or grab it now and you can access the information from there so you can stay abreast because Scholastic Oasis shares them as they become available.
Definitely.
Anything else in terms of when they're doing the search? You mentioned some things earlier in terms of some key things that they need to pay attention to, because recently there was a big thing in the US where a number of their residents access what they refer to as private scholarships. And so they were not able to benefit from that scholarship write off that the government was making available. Is there anything locally that we need to pay attention to when we're looking for scholarships?
Well, there are some key things we call it scholarship ready at Scholastic Oasis. And it starts, and I think I kind of alluded to it with being well rounded, but let me
Right.
unpack that a little more. You at least need to be a B student, B and above, to
Mhm.
access scholarships. And I'm speaking broadly now, because remember, scholarships are competitive. So let me just give you at least the basic outline. A B average, which works out to be about a 3.0 grade point average out of a 4.0 grade point average. That's your B.
Right.
You at least need to be involved in some type of extracurricular activity, some type of, community service, volunteerism. Remember, I spoke about volunteering and how
Yes.
important that was to my scholarship journey. How important those are two key things, and of course, being a certain age, we find that I would say the scholarship age, if you want to call it that, runs anywhere from 17, 18, going to 35 years. All right.
Okay.
Above that, it can even extend depending on if you're doing a master's degree, going beyond your bachelor's, going extend. We find up to ages 45 years for your scholarships. So there's an age limit. So you just need to be within a certain age limit to access. So you have your volunteerism, your age, your grade point average. For some persons, oh yeah, this is a touchy topic, but in terms of a criminal record, your track record, do you have that criminal record or not? Hopefully not. Some people even ask
Indeed.
about are you in good health? Depending. For example, in my case, when I went overseas, I had to do a medical examination. I had to have certain immunizations done, right? So
Right.
these are stuff when you're going to consider going overseas. Because I guess because it's important to know because you don't want to have to get ill overseas and then there's not enough treatment, for your proper treatment,
Right.
and then will the funder take on that risk? So there are certain things in terms of when you're going to go overseas versus locally. I must say that there's room for more in terms because you have persons who are disabled locally. You may
Yes.
find one or two scholarships for disabled persons, but they're not enough. So what I've found though in the United States though with their scholarships and their schools is that they're a little bit more mindful and open to persons with disabilities. So you'll see on their application forms, do you have a disability? Whereas maybe in the Caribbean region, we may not want to fill that part in. Actually, it's a recommendation when you're consulting with us to fill it in because then you get certain privileges and certain things when they know that you have that limitation. So you have to know, according to the country that you want to go to, in terms of who they're looking for and how accommodating they are. For example, we
Indeed.
found in countries like Australia and Germany, more so Australia, they had a lot of family oriented scholarships. So you may be able to carry your spouse and your kids depending on the
Okay.
time of life that you're in. Whereas maybe with, and I'm not picking on Japan, yes, you can bring a family there, but in terms of your spouse being allowed to work, it may be a little get very complex. Whereas in Australia, in certain parts of Australia, if you have your kids, you're bringing them with you, you can access school for your children free. You understand? So when you are looking
Right.
for your scholarships, both globally and locally, it's important to look on the values and the mission of the scholarship funder in terms of what they desire, and then you will be able to craft yourself. So I have no qualm saying that certain scholarships are just not for you, and it has nothing to do with that you're not good enough. It's just not created for you. Maybe you understand the scholarship may be created for somebody else. Maybe they're single. Maybe they have
Right.
other things. So you have to check to see what's the funder requirements and can you make yourself ready, or are you willing in terms of to meet their requirements, or is it that you have to look elsewhere to another funder? So those are some of the things that you need to consider.
Indeed. And in terms of further guidance too, because some of these scholarships only cover certain, as it says, there are some partial scholarships. So you want
Mhm.
to make sure, especially if you're going, once you're going to start, even locally, in terms of how you're going to access the additional funding, because it's not just about the tuition now, but it's about the books and the labs and all of those
Accommodation and
things.
the
Right.
transportation. Yeah. Definitely.
Right. Anything else along that line that they need to pay attention to in terms of
Well, you raise a good
how they
point
go
because
about
sometimes
accessing?
persons may get a partial scholarship, the tuition, and they did not budget. Consider that they're gonna have to have meals as a part of it, transportation, clothes. Those are considerations. So I also recommend, and I mean, I know this some person may not always like this, but I also ask the clients, or we ask the clients at Scholastic, have you considered a student loan? you know because if you got a part scholarship, the part scholarship may not be enough to cover the entire tuition, and etc. Maybe you need to consider a student loan or maybe a commercial loan or a loan from the credit union. These are the realities for especially for persons pursuing studies locally. And given the fact that we now have had COVID-19 or we're in the middle of it,
Right.
we have done research and found out that some of the resources have actually restrained a bit and maybe have
Yeah.
been redirected to other areas. So in that light, you're gonna have to consider more than one option. So yes, I've heard people say it's only scholarships alone. They don't want to have nothing to do with any loans, but loan may be a reality. You have persons who are doing even GoFundMe's or fundraisers in addition to them applying for scholarships. So it can't be a one cap fits all approach. You have to think about, so you have to write down your budget. You have to, because sometimes I'll
Right.
ask the client, what is the cost of the school fee? They don't know. You need to know what is it that you're being charged per year. What's your transfer? Write down your whole budget and say, hey, how am I going to cover these costs? It may be a scholarship, it may be personal savings, it may be I have to work over the summer, I may need a part-time job. These are the realities of persons within the Caribbean region. But guess what? It can be done.
That's
It can
right.
be done, and you have to be determined and persevering, especially now that it's getting more and more competitive. Right?
Indeed. Right. And that is key. It's just like you're about to start a business. You want to make sure that you have enough funds to cover all the necessary costs to get you off the ground until you start generating your income. It's the same thing. You need to actually sit and plan to see how much it will cost you in terms of the not just the school fees, but to itemize the different other areas and put together, as Tracy said, your budget. And you start looking around in terms of if it is that you need more than one scholarship, can you access that? If not, or if you have a shortfall, are you going to be able to get the additional funding from your relatives? And you
Yeah.
have a list of the alternate options that are available. And of course, you put the just like when you're preparing to go to high school and you put your top choice, your second choice,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
You want to have a list of those and see how you can maximize that. So you have a plan going in, because one of the reasons for this particular series is after season one, I got a call asking about connection from in terms of support for funding, because this young man, he started university, financial constraint, and he had to stop.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. So I just wanted to ensure that in responding to that person, others are also aware that there are different options. There's Scholastic Oasis that can assist in terms of helping you to identify some of the scholarships that are available. And you can also talk to your local institution to find out what's available there. If not, you can start looking externally so you can access the funding you need to move you along smoothly, and the option for part-time jobs to actually help in terms of funding along the way. All right, so I want to go
But
back to,
before we
go ahead.
move, Winsome, I want to highlight something that usually I don't see often, locally, where there's a call by the NHF, because usually nursing is also an area that it's hard to find funds for to do nursing here in the Caribbean or in Jamaica. And so I'm seeing an article put out recently by the NHF, National Health Fund, saying that they're encouraging students in need to apply for grants. There's actually an article. I probably can share that with
Yes.
you. So when you see things like these, I jump on it because usually you're trying to scrape for those nursing fees, which are very expensive. Now the NHF is saying, hey, we have some funds. And I guess given the environment that we're in, maybe healthcare is going to become a very
Very
significant area. And
critical.
so funds will be being pushed towards these areas. So another thing in your scholarship search is you have to ask yourself, the area that I want to study, is that area, does it have scholarships readily available? Or you get what I'm saying? All of those
Right.
go into your career choice. So now we're going on career choices. So I usually time when persons come to do consultations with us, we want to find out, yes, you want the scholarship, but what's your career choice? And is your career choice one that is being demanded for, and does it have financing? Very important in your selections for university.
Wow, very invaluable information there. So let's go back to your scholarship journey because you are a client of Scholastic Oasis as well. And that journey to Japan led you to produce this book in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Tell us a little
Well, just to give you some quick
about
background,
that.
you spoke about the 34 million that we have assisted clients in getting. Let me just be clear that that also includes things that I have also accessed, scholarships and grants and funds that I've also accessed, to include the Fulbright fellowship that is through the U.S. Embassy. So that's also a part of it. And there was also a grant through LACIP. This is a Latin American country, to do a particular project. So I had to include that, of course, because I mean, here am I benefiting and using back the skills that I learned from studying overseas. So my scholarship journey starts with me wanting to go to Europe to do a master's degree, because I was already completing my bachelor's degree many years ago. Was working, actually selling windows and roofs in Jamaica, a sales rep,
Okay.
and just going along and saying, hey, I want something more. There's more, much more to life here. And so my focus was on Europe. So I sent out application because I wanted to sip wine and kind of distracted and meet handsome men and all that thing that you see on TV with Rome and all these things. So I was doing my search online and I saw this program because my background is in environmental management, disaster management, sustainable development, and I found a perfect program that took you to Hungary, Italy. It was a sandwich program. It's an Erasmus Mundus scholarship. Applied, and with some to this day, they have not written back to say, hey, it didn't get through. Nothing.
Wow.
While I was focused on Europe, I said, okay, I saw the Japanese opportunity that came up, and I put in the application. The application was tedious, but my mind wasn't on Japan at all. My mind was on Europe. So when I didn't get through for Europe, the Japanese government called me now and said, hey, we're giving you a full scholarship to do your master's degree. You need to get to Japan within X time. I mean, this is me who doesn't even know a full sentence in Japanese running off. It's a good thing that my program was in English, but I mean, the culture, you speak Japanese. So
Yes.
getting that opportunity, going to Japan, I mean, turned the whole thing around for me. Eventually, I did get to go to Europe. I did get to go because of me being in Japan. There was a scientific conference in Rome, and I went to Rome. So but Rome did not turn out to be what I desired. Sipping wine and walking around in luxury. No, that didn't happen. So travel is important. It's very important for me,
Indeed.
because then these kind of imaginations and things that you have, the reality hits you when you see what's out there, and your love of country, your own home country. You probably
Yes.
used to cuss, and you become more
Better
appreciative.
appreciation for
Yeah, trust me, because
the rock.
I'm jumping ahead, but in the book that I speak about my scholarship journey, I speak about going to Rome and seeing potholes in the road and saying, "Is this downtown Kingston?" Right? You call it culture shock, right? Culture shock, because
Yes.
I'm just thinking of is it Julius Caesar and these place people, and to go and see these potholes in the road. But this is what happens when you travel. You come down to reality. So I got the opportunity eventually, and so Japan opened up other doors for me. So if I didn't get to go the direct path, and this is what happened in life,
That's
you may
life.
not necessarily get through with your desired scholarship or program all the time, but it opens when you get through for something else, other doors open up, and it may help you to go back to that first door or not. But in the
Right.
end, my Japanese experience and scholarship experience enabled me to come back home now and form the company Scholastic Oasis Caribbean that helps persons to identify scholarship opportunities. So that seed sown by the Japanese government in the end has borne a great harvest. And so I'm just pleased. Maybe when I say Japan, person may say Japan because you were used to the traditional markets of USA, UK, and Canada. And
Right.
of course, as I mentioned, I wanted to go to Europe and so, but we need to open our minds because we're going to find out when you're doing your scholarship search, both locally and overseas, you're going to find that some of the countries that we may are the ones giving full scholarships, giving
That's
better
right.
scholarships than some of the traditional USA, UK, and um, Canada. So that's something to note along your scholarship journey.
Very important. You wondering why I asked her to share her journey. It's important so you can understand from someone who has been there before, and that twist something in terms of the what you actually intended to the route you actually intended to take. It didn't work out that way, and probably for good reason. You would have been a little more mature by the time you ended up in Europe. So you
Yes,
could,
yeah, yeah.
right. All right, so we have a question here from Tread This Path. Does your organization aid in the student visa process?
No, we don't aid in the student visa process, and so that's your immigration. So depending on where you're, the country that you're applying for, and the scholarship, they would know. And if you get through, they would normally send those forms, and then you would take those forms to the embassy or the consulate that we have here in Jamaica or whichever Caribbean island that you may be in. So not to worry about that per se. What because it's normal. The process is normally straightforward. I know sometimes there may be challenges for them from the U.S. perspective
Mhm.
in terms of the visa process, but it's becoming pretty more straightforward and clearer in terms of getting your visa. But no, we don't provide that visa service at the moment. No, but that has not stopped us from providing the coaching services and coaching persons through. We just encourage them if they need the forms to be reviewed, they need a second eye. We will look through the documents and say, hey, this is what we need. And so, based on my experience in traveling and also my team's experience, we can say, okay, remember, you need to do this, you need to have that form, and put the relevant information. And so far, it has worked. We have had
Awesome.
persons who have gotten I don't know if you know the CRIF scholarship to the UK. They have gotten
Okay,
through
heard
their
about it.
visas and they have gotten through. So we have somebody right now on an Erasmus Mundus scholarship. The same scholarship I didn't get through for. Somebody got through. They're
Okay,
in Spain and Portugal doing their master's degree. So it hasn't
wow,
hindered us, even though we don't offer that visa service. No.
awesome. Is that the one that came through during COVID, or that was before?
Yes, because that was last year. And
Last
that's for
year.
Chantel Robinson.
Yes.
Yes, it was during COVID. And so she's now
Interesting.
in Europe. I mean, we need to swap places here. This is, where I was supposed to be. But she's having a, actually, now that we're talking, because I see photos now, because I ensure that we keep in touch with persons who have gotten, who have gone through our coaching services through us
Right.
and are now overseas. And I see she in Spain and she's all over the place. And I'm saying that's what I wanted to do. But nonetheless,
Oh,
it doesn't have to,
you can live vicariously through the photographs, right?
true, that's true.
Right. That's awesome. So even though you don't actually provide the
The visa.
direct assistance with the visa process, you do help them in terms of with the checklist to
Yes,
ensure that they have all the necessary things in place, which is great.
definitely. Yes,
Right. It's
definitely.
truly an oasis. Yes. All right. All right. See, Robert Burt Green saying most valuable comprehensive information. Hooray, Tracy.
Yay! Hi, Robert.
All right. And Marie saying absolutely true. And we have to weigh the pros and cons, especially in when we are considering finances.
Yes,
Very
definitely.
important.
Your budget,
Right.
yes, your budget. Very
Yeah.
important.
Yes. We have to count the costs before we start building.
Travel for a
Right.
mountain horse. Yes,
Yes, in terms
definitely.
of documentation. All right, so we are winding down smoothly. All right, so you share the countries that you have been and the resources that they can check to get the information and a lot more than that. So, if there are any more questions, now is your time to ask your question. I'm going to ask Tracy to share now for those organizations that are represented online or will be viewing later, schools, churches, community groups that want to engage your service, because you do provide group support
Yes,
in terms of,
yes, we
right.
do. So we'll come into your school, your churches, and we do seminars, well, now webinars. online, and we do the, so we find it very useful to have persons in terms of groups. We have been invited to persons career days, to speak with the sixth formers, your fourth formers, depending on the level, because as they prepare, and let me encourage you, we normally tell our clients at least 2 years worth of preparation to be scholarship ready for university. So that takes you back to your lower sixth to your fifth form,
Right.
not the final year of opposite, of sixth form, that you're scrambling now to try to look for scholarships now for your university. Lower sixth, into fifth form. So we definitely come into the schools, the career days. We do the group sessions, the seminars. We do, um, in terms of, we may give persons information. We have like our matrix or listing in terms of scholarships that everybody needs to
Right.
know about. Those are available. We take you through our 7 point or our 9 point scholarship application process in terms of our webinar, things to look for, how to prepare, which scholarships you are going to be applying for. We go through a very intense time. So we have great packages, for schools. We just, just to negotiate. I mean, we have actually been approached by even alumni associations. So you might have persons in the
Right.
who are listening now who are in their alumni and want to, help to improve or enhance the educational opportunities of the students that are the school that they went to. You can call us in, to do those sessions with the students. We have more than enough modules. We now have our resource, this book. I speak about my time in Japan and how you prepare to not only study in Japan, but also overseas, things that parents need to consider. I was on the line with, so we also speak to parents and guardians, so they can also approach us, as well, to do our one-on-one consultation. Winsome, you can put that in the chat as well in terms of our contact. And so we speak with parents and their concerns in terms of what they must consider for their children who are going to university. It's all in here. So grab your copy. It's on Amazon. And you can reach out to us directly for your copy as well in terms of things to consider. And, the comment that I got yesterday for one parent who is in Trinidad, whose daughter is going to Germany, is that the book is a timely intervention, and it kind of calmed his fears as a father, sending away his daughter, adult daughter, to study overseas. So,
So
the
that
results
is,
are there.
girl.
Yeah, we're here. We can come into your school, your office. So we're not only focused on high school students. We do persons. So our focus is ages 17 to 45 years. So we come into the
Okay.
workplace as well, to help with uptooling and upskilling your staff for those who you want to send overseas, to get further, education. We do that as well. Masters, PhD, and bachelors.
Wow, quite a suite there. And the site, this sock store, that's this Scholastic Oasis Caribbean.
Yes,
This store, the site is on screen. HTTPS sock-store.company.site.
hmm,
Can get that information. The information is there in terms of accessing the book and all the other resources, right, Tracy?
yes,
Right.
definitely. Yes.
All right. All right.
And you have, also, if you want to contact us directly, our email address as well, to book us, for us to come into your home, whether virtually, or physically. We are able to do that. Yeah, most definitely. We're able to do that. Myself and team are ready and waiting to be called into your schools. So, and then this will be a good addition to your program. I mean, the whole going into the whole getting back into school and a face-to-face environment bring its fair share of challenges. So sometimes it may be good to have something else. And if that may be an issue, virtual is there, that we can, do it virtually. Yeah.
All right. Gareth says, great information. All
Thank
right.
you.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Gareth. And let's see. Mrs. Bartlett Smith is late, but I know a few students who need scholarship. One, a teacher in training, another prospective civil engineer. You
Yes.
cover civil engineer in your, because you have a list of areas that you faculties
Yes,
you work with.
yes, yeah,
Civil
man.
engineer
So civil
included.
engineering is one.
All
So,
right.
you can follow us on our social media pages, mailing list. Reach out to us on email, for one-on-one consultations and for us to negotiate your packages. depending, and we're like your scholarship coach, your facilitator, to take you through the 7 or the 9 point journey, to making yourself scholarship ready, right? So you have to put in that work. It's not going to just land on you. You need to prepare at least a year to 2 years in advance, to access some of these funds. And these funds are not only for your high school students. You have scholarships that can be tapped into for persons all the way up to 45 years, depending on your stage and your age in life. So don't think you're too old. We'll walk you through the process, and we have numerous testimonials online of persons who have tapped into the over 34 million in scholarships, including me being a part of that amount.
And it is great when you are able to use and be a testimony of the service that you provide, because for I was my first client too for Serenity
Woo!
Consulting.
Really?
And it actually gave birth to other areas, because in terms of registering my business, filing my own taxes and all of that. And when
Okay.
persons learn that I do that, I have mostly professionals who will come and say, all right, just how much do you charge? And that's how I
Okay.
got started there. And it was not on my list in terms of assisting with that, but I saw where it's necessary, just like with your scholarship journey, which is why I believe it's a really great cohesion between Scholastic, Oasis, and Serenity, because we align on that
Yes.
level in terms of
Resource connection.
your journey, and using the hiccups
Personal
that you
experience.
had to actually provide support for others, who to make it easier for them to traverse the journey.
Definitely.
Right. So that's Oasis. All right. So this has been the first episode of season 2 of the Serenity Resource Connector. And we're off to an awesome start. The awareness you're bringing is amazing. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Right. So you want to stay tuned. Let's see, a number of persons are not aware of those services. I'm just going to inform them. All right, beautiful. And that's something that I usually encourage here on the Serenity Resource Connector. It's all about community, and we, each individual, helping to build your community and communities around you. So when you get the information here, to share it. So thank you. You are a star resource connector, Mrs. Bartlett Smith. Welcome on board. Looking forward to seeing you
That's good.
in the other episodes. So we started with the higher education. Next week we're going to the high school, because there are some things happening in the high school that a number of parents and students are not aware of, and we want to ensure that you know what's available, so that we don't have any excuse for persons not completing their studies, because it's very important in moving forward. You're welcome, Alicia. Thank you all for joining us for this episode. And that's a wrap until next week, God's willing, same time, same place, where we have another conversation. I'm talking about financing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Talking about, let's get this information here. I have my tickers all out of sorts. Oh, Scholastic Oasis. All right. So we're talking about higher education financing, and we talked about scholarships, grants, and more. So
Yes.
if you joined us late, don't worry. It's right there on the YouTube page. You can go back, and you have 17 other episodes before this one that you
Wow.
missed. You
So I'm
can
number 18. This is number 18.
this is 18.
Wow.
So you can just instead of binging on other things, you can binge on this one, so you can be a resource connector yourself in your community. All
Great.
right, share the link each week to spread the word. Let's all grow together and make our society better. Hooray for knowledge. Ah, thank you. All right.
Tread this path. Mhm.
All right, a perfect name. We're treading the path together. All
Uh,
right,
Winsome, let me encourage your viewers,
please.
to not be daunted by the scholarship journey. It may be tedious, but it is doable and it's very rewarding. Just start early, connect with Scholastic, of course, do your readings, and be determined. And I believe in some way, you may not necessarily get the exact thing that you desire, but when you do get it, it will blossom into something great. So don't be daunted. It can be done. I have done it, and others have done it. Keep pushing ahead and keep moving despite the challenges and the circumstances that you may face. That's it
Indeed.
for me.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And the beauty is that you do not have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you so much for sharing this part of your evening with us. I trust that you'll have an enjoyable rest of the night. And we look forward to seeing you again in this virtual space. Thank you. Continue to stay safe. And you continue to share as we care for those around us. Have a good one.